Hey Laowinners, it's Laowinners here with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about the battle of morality between different cultures and how China can really make or break a person depending on where you're from and how adaptable or malleable you are in your own morals and how much you allow things to affect you personally. But first, I have a huge announcement. I polled everybody. I talked to a lot of patrons and subscribers about what kind of t-shirts they wanted, what kind of merchandise they wanted from Laowinners for this quarter. And everybody wanted me to bring the Chabadoa t-shirts back. The Chabadoa t-shirts were a massive hit. That was definitely the highest selling t-shirt I've ever put out. And it was featured on some fashion blogs, and I actually ran into two separate people in real life wearing them. It was like really creepy and awesome to see. So stay tuned right now, actually, for a little ad. These t-shirts are gonna run for 2 weeks, so check this out real quick. They're back! Back by popular demand, the Chabadoa t-shirts are, in fact, back just in time for Christmas. Order yours today. You have 2 weeks left to buy them. They come in a stylish white or black simple design. And if you order now, they'll be there just in time for Christmas. Show the world how little you care. Chabadoa basically means half-assed or just okay, or kind of the equivalent of the English ish. This phrase in Chinese society is kind of tantamount to how everything works there. So if you're a fan of the channel, Laowinners, go out there and show the world Chabadoa. Show everyone that you gave it your half, that you're almost there. There's only a few days left on this campaign, so make sure you get your shirt today and support the channel. Enjoy. All right, hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget, there's only 2 weeks left on those shirts, so pick them up when you can. They will ship. The reason I put them out right now is they will ship before Christmas, so no matter where you are in the world, you will get them before Christmas time, if that's your thing, or the holiday season, no matter what winter holiday you celebrate. Anyway, let's get into the topic. I will be answering your questions at the end. So if you do have questions, pop them in now, pop them in whenever during this live stream, and I'll be answering them at the end. So the title of this video was How China Destroyed Me. Now, when I was in college, that was kind of when I decided I didn't want to stay in one place. I had backpacked through Europe. I wanted to live somewhere at least for a year. And everyone a lot of you guys probably know the story. I originally tried to go to Taiwan, but it wasn't hiring season at that point. So I ended up in mainland China. Very, very interesting story. If you guys watch some of my older videos, you can actually find out what in fact happened there. Huge story. I believe I actually put out a video called The Story I Can Never Tell Before, or something like that, or the real reason I ran away from the USA, or something like that. Anyway, I don't want to get like philosophical. I don't want to talk about like how people perceive morality. But the reason I wanted to bring this up was a lot of the commentary or debate I get from subscribers, and I think Winston would agree with me, when we make videos that are either positive or critical about China, there is a certain group of people, I'm going to discount the haters and stuff like that, but the people that say, you don't deserve to talk about Chinese culture, you don't deserve to have an opinion on this because it's not yours, right? They often use terminology such as like they're a minority culture, which I think is hilarious considering it's the biggest population in the entire world of people. But the fact that you're not allowed to have an opinion on a different culture because it's not yours and because it's different and because maybe you just don't understand the nuances of it, I think does not pertain to a lot of the scenarios that affected me in China. And this is kind of deep because we can go into the whole like Taiwan is full of Chinese people and they're moral, but a lot of the moral deficiencies of mainland China only happen in mainland China. We can get into that a little bit later, but the main point is that it affects you very, very deeply. Everyone knows that, a society, a culture is shaped by its values, historical values. A lot of people will bring in religion into this. I did grow up very religious. My family is incredibly Catholic, fervent Catholics, very, very strict Catholics, I can say. But I had a lot of friends growing up that were not religious, in fact. There was a common thread amongst everyone that I got along with. And that is, I think everyone that I was friends with were pretty good people. I don't think I think if you're a good person, you're not going to gravitate towards people that make really bad life choices and hurt other people. There is that really basic, no matter where you're from, that really basic right and wrong principle. Some certain things are really, really bad, right? To murder someone is bad. To steal someone's property is bad. There's obviously tons of gray area, but China, I didn't expect the scenarios that I saw to actually happen or influence me in the way that they did. So when I first got there, the first thing I noticed was really, really basic stuff, like not holding the door open for someone. That's not going to mess with your head. But it's weird because you'll go into a supermarket, you'll go into an office, you'll go wherever, and someone will open the door and you're right behind them, and they'll even look at you. They can look at you dead in the eye, and the majority of people will not hold that door open for you. Does that impact society on a great level? Probably not, right? But it goes much further than that. So I think it was a couple weeks into my first stint in China. It was my first year. I was in a taxi. And I saw a deceased person. I'll spare you the details. It was a motorcycle taxi driver who was dead on the road. Very graphic, very horrific. And I remember just the blood leaving my face, and I just felt like shocked. I don't think I had ever seen a dead person before. And yet no one was doing anything. No one pulled over. No one was like walking up to check on him. No one pulled out their phone. The taxi driver, I like looked over the taxi driver and I like tapped him and I pointed over at the dead guy on the road, and he was like legitimately didn't care whatsoever. And that kind of shocked me to the core. It made me like question how cheap is life here if people can just walk by or drive by a dead body like that. It was insane. But the thing is, it went even further than that, because it was not that long after that I was living up north in northern China, and there was another situation with a deceased man on the road. But this time, it was an older man. He was probably like 60 years old, and he had been hit by a truck maybe, and his body was laying there on the side of the road, and there were people crowded around it. So I was at a stoplight on my motorcycle, and I looked back to see what was going on, and then I pulled over and walked over, and there was a whole group of people, and a lot of them were pointing and laughing at the dead guy on the road. And again, like, this is now 2 or 3 years into China, and I'm like, what? People are like laughing at a corpse, at a dead body, taking pictures of their cell phone. And you'll see this if you're on any sort of Chinese groups, like mainland Chinese groups on WeChat or something like this, the kind of videos and imagery that you'll see people pass around, it's insane. Like, people will make compilations of this kind of stuff, and it gets to a point where you yourself kind of understand the logic of the people exhibiting these behaviors, because you become numb when you see that so many times. You see so many people acting so numb to the situation. And that's just like, of course, you could say this is a cultural difference. Maybe they're just more comfortable with death. They don't know the person, blah, blah, blah. But it also goes into like behavior. We've talked about this in the podcast and on ADVChina quite a bit, but the way that like there's almost a caste system in mainland China. So like a wait staff or someone that does manual labor does not inherently have the same value as any other person, right? They're at the bottom rung. Someone sweeping the street is at the bottom rung. Someone that is bringing you your tea or your meal is at the bottom rung, and they deserve to be treated that way. So it's almost fashionable or cool to treat them like absolute garbage, shouting at them, harassing them, sending stuff back just to make their life a living hell. There's no tipping culture or anything like that. So it shapes you, because every social situation you're in, you see this hierarchy, you see this caste system, and you maybe in the deep of your heart want to help those people out. You don't want to be the jerk. You don't want to be the one jerk, or you don't want to be amongst the jerks at the table. You want to step out a little bit. But after years and years there, you realize that if you're going to be the one to exhibit good behavior, to set a good example, number one, nobody's going to appreciate that behavior. And number two, people will ostracize you. So if you are the one talking to the person that is the lowest rung or giving them more attention than they should have in China, then you yourself lose face as well. It's really bizarre, and it's definitely this culture of like, if you're a stranger, you're not in my family and you're not my friend, or I don't need your connection, then you mean absolutely nothing, or dirt, right? I'd like to say that, not everyone is like this. Obviously, there's a lot of good people that don't have this sort of really, really atrocious behavior. But because society works like that, it means that even though you're living in a country that has 1 billion people around you, population density is crazy, you can feel quite alone because no one's going to give anyone else the time of day if they don't know each other. It's really, really weird. And there was a couple situations. Like, one was, actually, I'm not even going to get into that because I know I'll get demonetized. I know I'm going to get demonetized if I talk about that. But anyway, so that's why you see these videos and these news stories about people, like a child being killed or something like that. And nobody helps out because good behavior is just inherently not rewarded in mainland China. So if there's no real reward for them, then there's no incentive to do so. And it can rear its ugly head. And that's why you see things like food scandals and stuff, because the people participating in creating chemically traced food, or like really, really poor quality items that result in the deaths or result in the illness of people around them, because they don't know who those people are, it doesn't actually matter to them. It's so weird to think that there's no moral existential crisis going on in people's heads saying like, what I'm doing may potentially be making babies sick, may potentially be killing people that have families and children of their own, just like me. There's no real link to that sort of ideal. So when you see burn victim children on the street begging, the average person is going to be shocked to the core when they see something like that. Especially when they find out that people made those kids like that to go make money. They've been kidnapped, disfigured, and then sent on the street. And then you'll walk down the street and you'll notice that nobody cares. Everyone's turning a blind eye. The cops aren't called. Nothing's done about it, right? Those are the kind of things that really, really messed with my head. Like really messed with my, if we believe in things like souls, really messed with my soul, because to see such atrocities just in day-to-day life, on a normal walking street, on a shopping street, at first it shocks you, at first it makes you upset, it may even make you angry, it makes you disconnected with the culture and the morals that maybe you were brought up with. But then after that, you see it so much, and you don't want to be the guy that sticks out and potentially gets in trouble for trying to stop this kind of stuff, that you start to ignore it. And that's the horribly selfish and disturbing and disgusting thing, is that all of these behaviors that shocked you in the beginning, maybe now you don't even think about. So it really takes a step outside. So when I went back to the US, I would tell stories. I would talk to people about this kind of stuff that had questions. And when something that I thought was seemingly innocuous, something that, was just day-to-day life in China, made them like look at me like a deer in the headlights. That actually happens there, to the point where you feel guilty. You're like, oh, I don't want them to think China's like that, It takes a reverse culture shock to see actually how bad some of these characteristics are. And again, it must be so terrible for the guys, for the people in China that are trying their best, especially in humanitarian efforts, like people that are trying to do things for the environment, people that are trying to shut down factories that are giving the villagers cancer, people that are trying to stop kidnapping, people that put up charity websites and stuff that actually are giving money to people in need. It must suck for those people because they don't get any appreciation. And number two, they may even be looked down upon. Like, why is that my problem? And that's why if you look at any statistics, I believe Winston talked about this in his last video, but why is China the least charitable nation in the world? You look at a country like India, much, much poorer than China, to the point where, a large percentage of people are just trying to stay alive, yet they rank so much higher on the charity scale. In terms of helping people out financially or with goods or with efforts, maybe building efforts or clean water initiatives and things like this. Why does China rank so low? And it is, unfortunately, a deficiency in Chinese culture. And people are scared of that term. People want to think that every single culture, every single attribute of a place can be excused because it's different. And this is not something I think is different. And this is where the whole Taiwan versus mainland China thing comes into play. You go to a place like Taiwan, everyone's speaking Mandarin Chinese. Everyone looks like Chinese people because they are. They have Chinese culture, Chinese religious beliefs, Chinese traditions, Chinese familial ties, filial piety, all these kind of elements that you would have found in China. But it's completely different. When you walk around Taiwan, it's a completely different place because of the way people even interact with each other. People will strike up conversations with strangers on a train. They don't do that in China. People will help each other. People will donate to charities. People will participate in community efforts. And this is in a country that's not a communist country. Then you go to mainland China, it's the polar opposite. And it's bizarre because that's how much a culture can either be preserved or destroyed. So saying that Chinese people do these things or society runs this way because it's just a different culture is absolutely not true. Chinese culture does not promote selfishness inherently. It does not promote every man for himself, like literally like tribalism. This is not in my clan, so I can't help this person. This is not my problem. Taiwan does it. Taiwan adheres to Chinese principles and Chinese traditional values, and they exhibit those behaviors in daily life. So I don't know. It's weird. I kind of wanted to get it off my chest, but like you can be deeply affected by the stuff that you see. And I think the worst thing is not when you see strangers acting so apathetic to tragedy. It's when people you know, like your friends or your family members, maybe your wife, when they act so apathetic, when they act like it's not my problem, then you really feel lonely. You really feel outside, and that makes you really feel like a foreigner from that perspective. So I don't know. It was one of my biggest gripes was when I would try to bring up some of these issues or topics, like if you see something and then you talk about it with your Chinese friends and they just avoid it. They don't want to talk about it. I think that is the biggest downfall of how society can progress, because at the end of the day, you're in a one-party dictatorship that is telling you what to think, what to do, what to say, and what you can't do. And that's the only beacon. That is the only moral beacon that controls everything. It's not that you're a good person deep down. It's not that, you know, you're peers and you have a good community and you help people. It's this propaganda poster that says you need to be a moral person, right? That's not how you instigate change in morality in society. And unfortunately, I don't see that getting better. I thought the free market, you know, in the golden era of 2008 to, I would say 2008 to 2012, 13, I didn't necessarily see morals change, but I thought the free market, I thought the ability for people to compete and to have a natural economy, a natural way of life instead of government dictating everything you do. I thought that was going to instigate some sort of grassroots change in the way that people act. But unfortunately, that era is over. And this heavy-handed government control, maybe on paper, looks like, you know, with a social credit system and stuff like this, maybe will force Chinese behavior to become better. But inherently, at the bottom level, you know, where the seed grows, that's not going to change if the system doesn't change. All right, guys, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your guys' viewership. Don't forget that there's a new video every Wednesday for me. I'm actually working on a video right now. It's a mini documentary about Inner Mongolia. It's going to be pretty cool for next week. Also, Winston's got a video. He's right here. Yeah. Again, he's here, but you can't see him. He doesn't exist.
There I am.
He's every Friday. We're flying in between these buildings. He's every Friday, so go check him out at SerpentZA. And ADV podcast every other Thursday. Tomorrow. You guys check that out. It's going to be a brilliant one. I won't spill the beans about what we're talking about.
Yep.
And ADVChina every Monday.
Absolutely.
And that's our motorcycle talk show on two wheels. We just got back from a really cool trip, by the way, so look forward to that episode.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And don't forget to go to everpress.com/Laowinners to get those Chobdoa t-shirts. Only 2 weeks left. I'll put a link down below. So I want to say thank you so much, Laowinners. I'll catch you on the next one. This is the awkward part where I have to click stop streaming.
Yeah, bye.